Welcome to episode 1, and thank you so much for tuning in. After many delays, I am so excited to finally be here and kicking this whole thing off, Not Your Practice Life. As I said in the trailer, this podcast is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time because I've always been passionate about living my life to the fullest. But the older I get, the more passionate I am about helping other people live their best life and realize too that they can be happy no matter what their circumstances are. You get one shot at this thing, and people waste it away either thinking that they have all the time in the world to get done the things that they really want to do in life, take the trips they want to take, spend more time with their family, or they think that this is how life is supposed to be lived, right? Like they make excuses on why they're miserable and why they got dealt such a bad hand. But I'm really here to help you understand that no matter what your circumstances are, they can always be improved. And I'm not unrealistic about life either, because let's be straight up. Sometimes life is hard and sometimes it just downright sucks, right? Like that's reality. But what's also reality is choosing your mindset during those tough times and in the joyous times. Mindset is everything. Reality is also choosing to make a change when you're unhappy instead of just sitting in it for years on end. And reality is also truly being grateful for everything that you have. Gratitude goes such a long way. So today I want to discuss happiness because I think living your best life has to start with your own happiness. After years of speaking with people and figuring out where people are most unhappy, there are two major external factors that I found that affect people's happiness. That is their job and their relationships. And this doesn't have to be significant other. This can be family member, friend, but most of the time it is significant other. And how much those relationships can bring toxicity and unhappiness into somebody's life. So I really believe that if we can start with those two external factors, as well as some internal factors, we can start working towards a happier and healthier life. But for you, I want you to really start thinking about what areas of your life are you unhappy in? Is it your job? Is it a toxic relationship? Is it your home or your living situation? Is there something about yourself that you wish you could change? For a lot of people, they dread waking up and going to work every morning. And that is such a sad reality. So that's really why I want to start here. If you're one of those people, I want you to get real honest with yourself on why you hate your job, because there can be a multitude of reasons. Do you hate the work itself, or is it something else? Is it your boss? Is it the pay? Is it the commute? Is the work just not fulfilling? The majority of people that I've worked with or talked to over the last 20 years, the reality is that many people think that work is just supposed to be work. It's not supposed to be fun. It's called a job for a reason. They suffer day in and day out because they truly believe that that's how life is supposed to be. But I'm here to tell you that that is absolute bullshit, and we need to change the narrative on that. I have always had this belief that we spend so much of our lives at work, and it is vital to find something that brings you joy because it affects every single area of your life, to include your relationships. I know some people who are so miserable at their work that in order to cope, they have to stop at the bar on their way home and have a few drinks. Is this you? Or do you go home after work, but you're exhausted, you're drained, you're miserable, you're angry, you're cranky, and you treat your partner or your kids differently than you would if you loved what you were doing all day? Because let's face it, we're all human and sometimes our emotions run the show. So when you get home, your energy rubs off onto all of the other relationships in your life, to include your own. I live alone, and sometimes I come home and I am just so cranky that I'm like, thank goodness that there's not somebody else here that I'm going to rub this energy off of, and I just go to bed. But I truly believe it is so important to find joy and fulfillment in what we're doing. And I came to the realization in my own life. There was a point where I was miserable with my job every single day. I dreaded getting up and going to work. I drove in when it was dark. I got out when it was dark. And the day that I realized I was really miserable, I sat down and made a list of all the things that bring me joy and all the things that didn't. I knew I enjoyed helping people, but I didn't want a fixed schedule. I wanted to be my own boss, but I also didn't want a brick and mortar. So I started to research jobs that matched my list of likes and dislikes. And this is how I got into real estate about 10 years ago. And while my life has had some major changes in the last 10 years, I still go back to this method when I find myself unhappy or unfulfilled with what I'm doing for work. So when my life got flipped upside down a few years ago, it was back to the drawing board. But this time, I also started to think about, what did I enjoy when I was a child? Like, what lights me up? What lit me up when I was a kid? What lights me up now? What were my hobbies then, and what are they now? And I'm not going to lie to you, it took me some time. I'm talking like 2 years to try to figure out what I'd be happy and what would provide me fulfillment. But for me, I'd rather take my time following the things that bring me joy instead of going to work in some corporate job for the sake of having a good job title, but knowing that I would be miserable. So while I build my coaching business, while I write my book, while I launch this podcast and a few other things that I'm working on, I'm still waiting tables in the meantime. I definitely did not think that this is what my life was going to look like at 38, but I am so determined to find my happy and to find my purpose and to find work that is fulfilling that I will do whatever it takes. So for you, is the work fulfilling, or do you wish you were doing something else instead? And are you willing to put in the work? What is that, and why aren't you doing it? Do you think it's not a reality that you can't take a hobby and turn it into a career? Because let me tell you, you can. I have met so many courageous people who have followed their joy and passion and are making a killing by doing what they love to do. Do you think whatever you want to do is unattainable? Do you think you don't have the skills for it? Do you not know where to start in order to achieve it? Do you know the steps to take, but you're just not taking them? Because you truly can turn any hobby, passion, or skill into a career, like I just said. There are so many reasons on why we stop ourselves from doing the things that we want to do in order to be happy or achieve success. Those can include imposter syndrome, fear, self-limiting beliefs. The list goes on because we are complicated individuals. And it is so easy for us to talk ourselves out of things at times. I know I've been struggling with that. I know the steps I need to take in order to write my book. I knew the steps I needed to take to do this podcast, but I just kept getting in my own way. So is that why you're choosing to stay at a job that you're unhappy in? Are you getting in your own way? I think the pandemic showed a lot of people that they needed to make a change and that there were millions of opportunities out there. There was a study done by the U.S. Department of Labor that stated that millions of workers continue to leave their jobs each month. Millions. And that's amazing because I think for so long, so many of us just stayed put. But the pandemic kind of shook everything up in the world. So while there are millions that continue to leave their job each month, the State of the Global Workplace report for 2022 found that at work, 60% of people are emotionally detached. 50% feel stressed on a daily basis. 41% are worried at work. 33%, only 33% actually feel engaged at work. 22% are sad, and 18% are just downright angry when they're at work. And then the 2023 report showed that employee stress is at a record high. One person was even quoted saying, "By the time I'm done with work, I am so exhausted that some days I don't have the energy to hold a conversation." So over time, I've had my family and friends accuse me of not being socially receptive when they try to reach out. This again goes back to my point that your work affects all of the relationships in all areas of your life. There was another study done 7 months ago by Fortune.com that found that American workers hate their jobs so much that nearly half of them wouldn't wish it on their worst enemy. That is so sad. Like, why are we not doing something about that? Or let's talk about another angle of why you might not like your job. Do you actually love what you do, but it doesn't pay enough? And if this is the case, can you ask for a raise? Or can you pick up a side hustle to make supplemental income? You can drive for Uber, sell things on eBay and Facebook Marketplace. There are always ways to make more cash. Or can you look for the same job, but at a different company where that company could pay you more? Or do you love your work but hate your boss? Can you have an honest conversation about what's not working with him or her? Can you focus on your job and not let your boss get to you? Can you pour all of your efforts and positivity and energy towards your work or your customers and kind of ignore your boss? Is that possible? Or are you the boss? There is a massive link between worker satisfaction and their manager. Gallup, who conducts global workplace studies, found that the manager or team leader alone counts for 70% of the variance in team engagement. Jim Harter, who's the chief scientist of workplace management and well-being at Gallup, told CNBC, "We need to teach managers to have at least one meaningful conversation every week with each person that they manage." The things that tend to drive employee engagement and well-being tend to be a bit situational. And managers are in the best position to understand each person's situation and to coach them in the right kind of way. He said, I think that's really the reason why organizations need to focus a lot more on moving to a model of a coaching manager, not just a delegating manager, but a coaching manager that's in touch with their people. So if you are the boss, you really need to start thinking about engaging more on a personal level with your employees. I know in the military, we're really trying to instill that at managers of every level. You really need to understand your people. You need to understand when they're happy and when they're not. You need to understand what drives them and what doesn't. And you need to understand if they have something going on at home. You need to get to know them on a personal level. Suicide rates are so high in the military, but knowing your people goes far beyond suicide. It just goes to show like that you give a shit about your people. And if you don't, what are you doing? If you want to run a successful business or a company, you have to care for your people. If you want them to provide quality work, if you just even want them to respect you, give a shit about your people. They are everything. They are the workhorse. They are the drive factor. They are everything in your business. And so to me, when there's a high-level leader or manager that doesn't know their people, it's kind of downright disgusting, to be honest. Like whether you have one person that works under you or 1,000, understand your people. And if you're unhappy in your job, then you really need to sit down and think about why that is. And sometimes it's just thinking outside of the box to change your circumstances. And sometimes it's truly only a shift in mindset, not changing your job, but just changing your thought patterns around it. Because I was miserable waiting tables. I'd get so down on myself because I didn't realize that I was tying my self-worth into my job title. I'd go to networking events and I was embarrassed to say, oh yeah, I wait tables. Like it was hard enough for me to get to those networking events knowing that I wait tables, but I wanted to make friends and meet new people in Nashville that I had to swallow my pride and suck it up and be like, you know what? I am going to go to this networking event. I am going to have confidence. And I'm going to say I wait tables like a boss. Not really, but you get my point. So that was just kind of a smack in the face for me when I'd go to these events and I would be embarrassed to say, yeah, I wait tables. But the reality is this job is allowing me the freedom to do whatever it is I want to do all day long to work towards my goals. I can work a 6-hour shift and make some really great money. I get to listen to amazing live music every day, and I get to meet people who are happy because they are on vacation, escaping their miserable 9 to 5. And because they're having a great time, I'm having a great time. So I desperately needed a change in my mindset. And I didn't even realize it until one of my mentors said to me one day, she said, Michelle, life is about human connection. The conversations you have at the gas station, the people you help at work, the memories you make with loved ones. It is not about your job title. And she was absolutely right. I started to think about the weekend prior where I had 3 different tables hug me before they left. They straight up got up and hugged me as they walked out the door. 2 different tables took pictures with me. Like they wanted me in their vacation memories, which really spoke volumes to me when she put it in that light, right? It's about human connection. And I made such a difference in these people's lives that they wanted to remember me from their trip to Nashville. And truly, like I've met so many amazing people from all over the world just waiting tables. And those are the connections that matter, not the fact that I'm 38 and I'm waiting tables. Like I am so grateful to have this life. I am so grateful to have this flexibility where I can travel and take trips and work on podcasts and write my book and do whatever I want to do during the day and still be able to come back to a job where I can pick up extra shifts if I need to or release shifts and just take off and go on vacation if I want to. So sometimes that's really all we need is to reframe our brain. What is amazing about your job? Are you able to work remote and stay home with your dog or stay home with your babies or just be in the comfort of your own home? Are you healthy and do you have a reliable car that you're able to get to your job or wherever else you need to go? Do you have some kick-ass coworkers who are more like family or best friends than they are coworkers? And is that what drives you every day? Does your salary afford you the ability to live a cushy life, to travel, to provide the type of life for your children that you only dreamed of providing them? Does your job do that for you? because truly sometimes we just need a reset in our mindset. And if your job provides you the majority of things that you're looking for, stability, great pay, comfort, then maybe you just need to shift your mindset. Or maybe you absolutely love what you do, that you're working so hard that you have no free time and you're really not enjoying the fruits of your labor, because there has to be a balance. There has to be joy. You need to get out and have fun. You can't just work it away. So even if you love what you do, please take time off to spend it with your family and your friends and make memories, because you have no idea what tomorrow can bring. So I've decided to break this episode up into different parts. So I really hope you enjoyed today's conversation. And if you're unhappy with any aspect of your job, I really hope that you start thinking about what that is and what you can do to change it. Can you ask for a raise? Can you talk to your boss? Can you look at a different company? Can you go back to waiting tables so you can chase your dreams? Can you just change your mindset, if nothing else? Please stay tuned for the next episode. We're going to dive deep into relationships, toxic relationships, ones that cause you stress and anxiety, ways that you can draw boundaries with people that you don't want to cut out of your life, and some of the reasons why we stay in certain situations when we know we'd be happier otherwise. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe. It helps podcasters everywhere, and I'll talk to you guys soon.